Hi folks, welcome to this Lake Fork Report. It's the first part of April and Lake Fork is coming into bloom. After a wet and cold spring, the water temperatures are finally getting to where the bass are coming up to the shallows in waves. The water temperatures can range from 55 to 64 degrees right now. The fish are spawning in the backs of the creeks right now. Main lake fish aren't quite up yet. The water's clearing in areas, but it's still stained in most areas of the lake. But it's clearing faster. There's four main techniques we catch fish on during the spring that are year in, year out producers of big bass on this lake. The soft stick bait is one of the best lures you can use during this time of year when the fish are spawning on Lake Fork. The diamondback rattlesnake by Grande Bass is one of my favorites because of the size, the water displacement by the big rings, and the action that this lure has. It's a large lure, so it's got a good fall rate. You can fish this lure in heavy cover or out in 4 foot of water next to trees. The areas I concentrate on during the springtime on Lake Fork are areas out of the wind where the fish are going to spawn. I'm looking for a hard bottom with grass as cover, fairly clear water, stumps or boat docks for them to spawn around. And we're going to take this soft stick bait and throw it into these areas and fish it very slow. When you're blind casting for bedding fish, you have to fish slow to really catch what you need to catch out of an area. So when you get a bite in an area, fish it real thorough. The next technique is a Texas Rig Craw worm. When the fish are spawning, just like the soft stick bait, I'm really covering the areas where I think these fish are spawning. So instead of the weightless soft stick bait, I'm using a Texas Rig Craw worm. The Mega Craw by Grande Bass, got the big flapping arms and the long tentacles, makes a lot of water displacement and vibration. But I'm still casting this in areas from 1 to 4 foot deep where I think these fish are spawning. Next to grass and holes in grass and trees, stumps, boat docks. But again, this is another slow technique. Lily pad stems, where these fish are nesting is where we're crawling this craw worm through. You want to go slow enough that you're aggravating this fish to move them off of their nest. So we've got the soft stick bait and the Texas Rig Craw. When conditions aren't right for fishing slow for these spawning fish, I'm going to go ahead and move around early in the morning if it's windy or cloudy and I can't see or I can't keep the boat still long enough. I'm going to use a chatterbait type lure or a spinnerbait and cover some water in the same areas where they're spawning. Colors have been more chartreuse this year because of all the stained water. Chartreuse and white, and chartreuse. But, move around with a spinnerbait. If you're not getting bit in an area and you need to move to the next pocket where it's calm, where you can slow down and fish thoroughly for these spawning fish, we pick up spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, and run down the bank, throwing in the same areas where you think these fish are going to be spawning. You can get some real big bites doing that. And my favorite technique is bed fishing. Bed fishing on Lake Fork can be very exciting and rewarding with very big fish. Bed fishing is more like hunting. You're looking for these fish, you spot them, you kind of stalk them, get your boat in the right angle, right position, and then you aggressively fish for one fish, and you capture that fish, take pictures, and put them back. It's real rewarding. The lake is clearing up, so sight fishing is going to be a prevalent technique here in this next month. I use a Texas Rig soft plastic worm most of the time, like the 4.5 inch Grande Bass rattlesnake in the bubblegum color. The color's not really that important to the fish. It's more important to us fishermen because you can see this color in 2 or 3 foot of water or 4 foot of water. And when you see it disappear, you can set the hook. It's a little bit easier for fishermen. Natural colors work great. You've got to work a little bit more on feel with this bite. But sometimes those nesting fish, they'll pick it up and spit it out so fast, you've got to be really good on reaction time. Putting boats around nesting fish I really try to be ginger around the nest, so I'm not going to prop wash all the eggs off these nests. We've got a great resource here in Texas at Lake Fork, and we want to protect it and let these fish. We're gonna fish for them on the nest, but let's try to keep them to where they can get their spawning done by not running over their nest or abusing the fish when we get them up out of the boat. Let's catch them and put them back in the water real quick so they can get back to their nesting activities. So Lake Fork, she's in full bloom. Big bass are moving up, and you know, until next report, good fishing. I'm Lance Fick.